Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, as I said in a past video, I recently broke free from the golden handcuffs and decided to quit my job. And I know a lot of people are thinking, Agustin, what is your plan? How are you going to do this? So in this video, I wanted to answer that question. But when I was trying to think about how I'm going to present this idea, I realized that there's no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. What works for me might not work for you. What's easy for me might not be easy for you, because we're all running the race of life a little bit differently. So instead of acting like I have all the answers, I'm simply just going to explain my plan, and hopefully you can use some of my strategies in your life to help you. Now, judge me however you want with this, but at the end of the day, right now, El Agustin bows to no one. So let's talk about it. I included timestamps below. I thought about as much as I can, so feel free to go back or skip around. So let's start off just by talking about risk. I want to start this video off simply just by talking about risks, because quitting your job is a risk. But when you really think about it, everything in life, every single day, we have risks. I mean, there's a risk of leaving your house. There's a risk of getting in your car. There's a risk of quitting your job. And there's a risk of staying at your job. It doesn't matter how you live your life. You are going to face risks every single day. And sure, this risk could slow down your career. This risk could be a financial hit, but what's life without a little risk? You know, the reason that I wanted to quit my job was because I thought the risk of staying would leave me to a life of monotony, of quiet screaming desperation. And I thought the risk of staying was riskier than the risk of leaving. You know, there's this quote by Jim Carrey where he says, "You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love." Whatever you do in life has risks, so look at it that way, I think. And now let's talk about the number one question on everyone's mind, health insurance. If you are from the land of the free and the home of the brave, you are probably asking yourself, Agustin, what about health insurance? And there is no way around this. There's no secrets. Healthcare is a $1 trillion industry, and when there's that much money in something, they can really just do whatever they want. It's dependent on what state you live in, your current health conditions, and your current needs. I live in Colorado, so I just simply went to the Colorado healthcare website and looked at the different options. You know, I don't have any health issues and I don't take any prescription medication, so I really just needed something for emergencies. So I went with a plan with a high deductible of $8,700 with prevention care visits, free prevention care visits. And so this is what I'm spending. For my health insurance, I'm spending $161 a month. For my dental insurance, I'm spending $10 a month. You know, to be honest, I think that one of the biggest factors is what state you live in. When I finished the Peace Corps and I was living in Georgia looking for a job, the cheapest health insurance I could find from Georgia was $500 a month. And I'll be honest with you, I just went without health insurance for 6 months. Luckily, nothing happened. But that is my health insurance situation. It's not cheap, but it's not breaking me financially. So now let's talk about what I did before I decided to quit and the 3 things I needed before I quit. Before I quit my job, I had to make sure that I had a decent plan so that I wasn't setting myself up for failure. And in order to do that, I needed 3 things: money, ownership of my life, and a fearless attitude. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each, and let's start with money. So the first thing I needed was money. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, how much? And my response to that is that money is very relative, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer to that question. I mean, if I lived in New York City, I would probably need 10 times the amount of money that I need in Colorado. If I had kids, I honestly have no clue of how much money I need. There's no universal, concrete, one-size-fits-all number of how much money you need. For me, I thought that 2 years of income would be enough in some stream of income. So I'm going to be completely honest with you, and this is what I have. In savings, I have $25,000. In investments, I have $55,000. And with YouTube, I have some income. And I know there's a small percentage of people out there saying, Agustin, that is not enough. And my response to that is, I think it is. And I'm not going to spend my whole life waiting until I have $1 million to start pursuing what I want. Because if I do that, I'm going to spend my whole life waiting. Now, the second thing I needed was ownership of my life. And the second thing I needed was just ownership of my life. I needed complete control of my financial situation and not have to owe anything to anybody else. So what I mean by that is no debt, low living expenses, and a frugal mindset. You know, you don't need $1 million to own your life. You really just need zero. Because if you have $0, at least you don't owe anything to anybody. Debt is the modern form of slavery. And I'll be honest, I think that if you just have $0, you probably have a higher net worth than most people in the United States. So that's what I needed, ownership of my life. And the final thing that I needed before I quit was a fearless attitude. Ladies and gentlemen, in this world, it doesn't matter what you do or what you say. Someone is going to judge you or criticize you for it. And what I've learned is that that is not a representation of who you are. It is a representation of that person's own fears, of that person's own insecurities, and that person's own character. And what they say is their own karma, and that's something that they're going to have to deal with. And how you choose to respond or not respond is your own karma. The world is going to criticize you no matter how you live your life. So just be yourself and do what you want. And as Jack Johnson said, don't let your dreams be dreams. Before I made the decision to quit my job, I just needed a fearless attitude and trust that the universe is on my side. You know, I don't know what's going to happen, but at the end of the day, I'm not letting my dreams be dreams. And those are the 3 things that I needed before I even thought about quitting my job. I needed money, ownership of my life, and a fearless attitude. And then let me talk about the 3 things that I did 2 months prior to quitting my job. So I actually decided that I was going to quit my job 2 months before I actually did it. And in those 2 months, I needed to prepare myself for quitting. And I needed to do 3 things in those 2 months. Number 1 is I needed to convince myself. Number 2 is I needed to build up my savings. And number 3 is I needed to figure out how long my savings would last me. Now I'm going to talk about all 3 of these. So let's first talk about convincing myself. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a scary thing to take a risk and go into the unknown. Luckily, I have a very supportive group of people in my life who are cheering me on saying, Agustin, don't let your dreams be dreams. But regardless of how supportive people are, you are the one that's going to have to make the decision because you're the one that might have to deal with the consequences of the decision. I don't think that decision should be taken lightly. It took me a long time to convince myself. I had to think about the pros of it and the cons of it and the potential consequences of the decision. And like I said in the beginning of this video, we all have different life situations, and what works for me might not work for you. What's easy for me might not be easy for you. There's no one-size-fits-all equation for this. But once I finally convinced myself, it was a very freeing feeling. And then the second thing I had to do was build up my savings. So once I convinced myself that I was going to quit my job, I needed to change my financial plan and start building up my savings. If you haven't seen it, the market is pretty volatile right now, and I don't want to risk having to take out investments at a loss. So I started to build up my savings because I might have to live off savings for a little bit. Now, according to the internet, $25,000 in savings or $80,000 in total is not that much money. According to the internet, everyone wants that magical number of $1 million. But in the real world, that is a lot of money. And my living expenses are pretty low, so that money is going to go a lot further than someone maybe living in New York City, living a lavish lifestyle. Money is very relative, and if you know how to spend it and how not to spend it, it will go a lot further than you. And I don't fear living off savings. It doesn't scare me. I think that money is there to serve me and not let my dreams be dreams. So I stayed building up my savings for 2 months. And then the final thing I needed to do was figure out how long my money would last. So I am pretty conservative when it comes to risks in money. And I want to make sure that all my bases are covered as much as I can before I take a risk. So I sat down and I created an Excel spreadsheet to estimate how long my money would last me. So let me show you that sheet. Now, the cool thing about money is that money is just very basic math. And if you know just like 4th grade math, then you can estimate and predict a lot of things related to money. So I'm going to show you exactly what I did to figure out how long my money would last. And of course, this is just an estimate, and life will throw your surprises at you and things could change. But I'm going to do the best with what I have, and I'm going to predict how long my money will last me. So as I said, I have $55,000 in investments and $25,000 in savings with a grand total of $80,000. Now, on average, I spend about $2,500 a month. So if I was making nothing and I just burned through every single thing I had, that would last me 32 months. If it was just savings, it would last me 10 months. Now, if I was making $500 worth of income and my living expenses lowered to $2,000 and I was living off $2,000 in savings a month, then that would be 13 months that my savings would last me, and so on. And if I started to make over $2,500 a month, after that, I would just be breaking even and no longer living off savings. And once I did that, I realized that this risk is not that big of a risk as I thought. I mean, isn't that money there to allow me to do what I want in life? Now, I know that there's some people out there thinking, Agustin, what if the market just crashes and you lose 50% of your investments in a month? And my response to that is I'm not going to base my life decisions on if the market is up one day or if the market is down one day. I'm not going to let the people of Wall Street control the decisions that I make in my life. I'm willing to take the risk, and I'm not scared. I'm not going to live my life in fear. So those are the 3 things that I needed to do 2 months before I quit my job. I needed to convince myself, build up my savings, and figure out how long my money would last. And the final thing that I want to talk about is how I feel after quitting. You know, I'm not the type of person that worries a lot or stresses out a lot. I'm also not a type of person that is very future thinking. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. It probably won't be this, but I'm going to enjoy the journey. I mean, I've really been enjoying making these videos. It's cool to see your comments and seeing that these videos are actually helping people, although sometimes when you're in a room by yourself talking to a camera, you forget about that. But I have really just been enjoying having control over my time, working when I want to work, and yeah, it's been great. It was a great decision. There's not one single doubt in my mind. So thanks everyone for watching this video and all of my videos. There'll be many more to come. Keep commenting so I can have an idea of what type of videos that I should make. Muchas gracias. Que tenga un buen día. Nos vemos, chico. And remember, don't let your dreams be dreams.